Imagine waking up at noon, but the sky is pitch black. A darkness so absolute you cannot see your own hand in front of your face. It is not an eclipse. It is not a thunderstorm. It is a monster. A wall of choking black dirt, 10,000 feet high, moving at 60 miles per hour, swallowing entire cities whole. You cannot breathe. You cannot run. This was not a Hollywood post-apocalyptic movie. This was the American heartland in the 1930s, the day the Great Plains turned into a living hell. To understand how this nightmare began, we must first look at the land before it bled. In the early decades of the 20th century, the American Great Plains, stretching across Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, Colorado, and New Mexico, were advertised as the Promised Land. For centuries, this vast territory was covered in deep, thick prairie grass. It was an ecosystem perfectly balanced by nature. The native grasses, with their massive, tangled root systems, acted as a natural anchor, locking the moisture and the rich, dark topsoil deep into the earth. Then came the Great Plow-Up. Driven by the onset of World War I, the price of wheat skyrocketed. The federal government issued a rallying cry to American farmers. Wheat will win the war. Suddenly, the Great Plains were no longer just a grassland. They were a gold rush. Thousands of eager settlers, armed with newly invented gasoline-powered tractors, descended upon the plains. They tore into the earth with unprecedented speed. Millions of acres of native grass were ripped up, turned over, and pulverized to make way for endless fields of wheat. In their haste to strike it rich, these farmers practiced aggressive, unsustainable agriculture. They left no trees to block the wind, no cover crops to protect the soil. They believed the rains would last forever. They believed they had conquered nature. But nature was merely waiting. By the turn of the 1930s, the global wheat market collapsed, leaving millions of acres of plowed, naked soil exposed to the elements. And then, the ultimate catalyst arrived. The rain stopped. In 1931, a historic, blistering drought settled over the Great Plains. The relentless summer sun baked the overplowed fields, scorching the crops until they withered into dust. Without water, the tightly bound agricultural soil lost its structure, crumbling into a fine, dry, powdery gray ash. Now picture the geographic reality of the Great Plains. It is a vast, flat expanse with no mountains, no forests, and no natural barriers to slow the wind. The high winds that naturally sweep down from the Rocky Mountains now collided with a desert of human making. The wind picked up the loose, powdery earth. At first, it was just small, localized dust devils. But as the drought dragged on into 1932, then 1933, the storms grew. They became massive, organized systems of destruction. The dry, loose soil was lifted miles into the sky, creating monstrous, rolling clouds of dirt that the locals called rollers, or black blizzards. These were not ordinary dust storms. They were colossal, moving mountain ranges of earth, carrying millions of tons of topsoil, away from the farms that desperately needed it. When a black blizzard approached, the temperature would plunge rapidly. Birds would fall from the sky, their wings weighed down by heavy dust. The sun would be completely blotted out, plunged into an eerie, suffocating midnight at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Living in the Dust Bowl was a constant, daily battle for survival. The dust was not just outside. It was an invasive, living entity. No matter how tightly families sealed their homes, the dust found a way in. They stuffed wet rags under the doors, taped up the windows. But when they woke up, their pillows would be outlined with a thick, dark ring of dirt. Meals were a nightmare. Families had to eat with their plates upside down until the moment the food was served. Even then, every bite of bread, every sip of milk crunched with the taste of grit. The dust got into the machinery, seizing tractor engines and ruining household appliances. But the worst damage was done to the human body. As the fine silica-rich dust was breathed into the lungs, it acted like microscopic shards of glass, tearing at the respiratory tissue. A deadly epidemic swept through the region, known as Dust Pneumonia. Hospitals were overwhelmed. Doctors, powerless against the elements, could only advise mothers to keep wet cloths over their children's faces at night. Hundreds of children died, their small bodies unable to filter the suffocating air. Outside, the animal kingdom fared no better. Cattle wandered aimlessly, blinded by the dust, their stomachs filling with dirt until they collapsed. To make matters worse, the dust storms triggered bizarre ecological imbalances. Plagues of jackrabbits, numbering in the hundreds of thousands, descended upon the remaining vegetation, devouring everything in sight. When the rabbits were gone, plagues of grasshoppers followed, eating the wooden handles of farm tools. It felt biblical. It felt as though the earth itself was actively trying to purge humanity from its surface. The nightmare reached its absolute terrifying climax on April 14th, 1935, a day that would forever be etched into the American consciousness as Black Sunday. The morning had started beautifully. The sun was shining. The air was warm, but by mid-afternoon, the horizon suddenly went cold. A massive cold front swept down from Canada, and with it came a monstrous black wall, towering over 10,000 feet into the air. It was wider than the eye could see, stretching across the entire horizon, moving at a terrifying speed. People panicked. Cars were abandoned on the highways as drivers could no longer see the road. Inside homes, the darkness was so thick that turning on a light bulb did nothing. The light could not penetrate the dense fog of dirt. People huddled in corners, praying, convinced that the end of the world had arrived. It was this specific storm on Black Sunday that inspired a reporter to coin the term, the Dust Bowl, for the very first time. What followed was the largest migration in American history. Over 2.5 million people packed up whatever belongings they had left, strapped them to the roofs of their battered cars, and abandoned their homes. They left behind ghost towns, half buried under sand dunes that looked like frozen waves of a brown ocean. These refugees, often referred to collectively as Okies, headed west along Route 66. They were lured by handbills promising agricultural work in the lush valleys of California. It was a journey of desperation, thousands of miles through burning deserts, driven by the simple dream of a place where the air was clean and the ground was green. But California was not the paradise they had envisioned. When they arrived, they found a state overwhelmed by poverty. Jobs were scarce, wages were pitifully low, and the local population viewed the incoming refugees with hostility and contempt. The migrants were forced to live in squalid, disease-ridden roadside camps, working as migrant laborers for pennies a day. Back on the plains, the U.S. government finally realized that if they did not act immediately, the entire midsection of the country would permanently turn into an uninhabitable desert. Under the leadership of President Franklin D. Roosevelt, the government launched an unprecedented scientific effort to save the land. They introduced contour plowing, which followed the natural curves of the land to prevent water runoff. They paid farmers to plant native grasses instead of wheat, and they launched the Shelter Belt Project, planting over 220 million trees in a massive living wall from Canada to Texas to act as a permanent windbreak. Slowly, painfully, the methods worked. And in the fall of 1939, the skies finally opened up. The rain returned. The wet, fertile earth drank in the water, and the green grass began to grow once more, anchoring the soil back down. The Dust Bowl was not just a natural disaster. It was a severe warning. It proved that when we abuse the earth for short-term gain, the earth will strike back with devastating force. Today, as global temperatures rise, the ghost of the Dust Bowl still whispers to us from the soil of the Great Plains. Because if we forget the lessons of the past, we are doomed to repeat them. Thank you for watching this deep dive into Earth's greatest disasters. If you want to support our channel, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe, and let us know your thoughts in the comments below.